Hello out there in podcast land, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us again tonight. This is another edition of Hunting the Shadows. I am your host, Dennis Carroll, and we have a fantastic show lined up for you tonight, and we're going to get to it here very shortly. I want to welcome everybody into the grotto as we gather in the grotto here tonight, and also known as the chat room. Well, I appreciate you all for being here tonight and for your support. It's been fantastic. Hope you have had a wonderful week so far. We had a great show with Miss Jessica Jones today on Annabelle. If you missed that, you definitely need to go check that out. Absolutely. It was a great show. And that will be found. You can find that, on, of course, on Jessica's channel, The Cryptid Huntress, or you can also find it in my library. Either one, just which way you want to go, it's in there. So go check it out. It was a great show. And we definitely do not want Annabelle in the neighborhood. Well, that's the conclusion we came to on that. Absolutely. And we've got another show lined up tomorrow with Chantel on Aquarius Rising, South Africa. We'll be doing a show on Agents of Evil. That's when evil gets personal with you, folks. It gets downright hairy then. Yes, it does. And we're going to be talking about that on her show tomorrow. I think sometimes evil looks at you going along, having a good time and enjoying life, and it says, hey, we need to do something about that. I'm going to go in and screw your life up. And I think that's what evil's always kind of targeting us that way. Absolutely. So that's what that's about tomorrow, the Agents of Evil. All right. And so check that out tomorrow. That's 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, okay, on Aquarius Rising. And also, of course, we have another episode of Paranormal Point of View coming up Friday at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be talking about some more. I've been watching some more movies. We'll look at some books and some other things. And I will be telling, I've started a new thing on Paranormal Point of View. I will be telling some of my case histories on there. I'm going to be sharing some of my cases with you guys. And I call this sort of like an audio book instead of writing it down in book form, which I hope to do one day. I'm going to share some of this with you this way on the podcast. So we will be doing that Friday. So you might want to be around for that because it should be a very interesting night. Well, like I said, I appreciate you all here, the support you've been showing, all the great new members in the Shadow Hunters Club. It's great, and people donating more and more free memberships out there. I really appreciate that. Definitely, it's great stuff you guys are doing, and you're helping out a lot of people. And I'm getting a lot of good feedback off of that. So you're doing a good service, absolutely, and we want to appreciate that. I want to welcome all of the new members in that may be in here tonight. And here's the link for Jessica's show about Annabelle, if you want to check that out, if you didn't get to see it today. And you can hopefully check that out when you get a chance. Okay. All right. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce our very, very special guest tonight. I don't know how I'm going to do an introduction for this lady, okay? Because she is well known now, and but I'm going to try anyway. She's a very good friend of mine, and everybody knows I'm crazy about this woman. She is a smart woman, very articulate, and she has a lot of great research abilities that she does. She has a great podcast. This is a very busy woman, okay? She stays busy, and I admire her for that, definitely. She is dedicated and beyond measure, absolutely. But I appreciate her being with us here tonight. And without further ado, I will definitely bring her on, Miss Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress. Good evening.
Hey,
we meet again
hey,
today.
it's a double header. Yeah.
Double duty
Yeah, that was
today.
a fun show today. That was a fun show.
That was great. I got to make a correction on your show. I was wrong about they did have a daughter, and they do have a daughter. I forgot about that. And they have a daughter and a son-in-law, and I think they're the ones that's taken over Ed and Lorraine's estate. But I forgot about their daughter, actually, so I misspoke on that. But anyway, it was a great show. Absolutely. And
Thank
I think
you.
we covered Annabelle very close. She is a freaky young lady, or whatever you want to call her. She is definitely something we don't want in the neighborhood.
No, I've been watching my back to make sure my Annabelle doll hasn't come to life tonight. Okay. And
Yep. And
yeah, I actually was watching some more videos today after the show, and people were really complaining because they keep opening up that box and letting people interact with her with the door open. And so people are really upset about it. I don't blame them. I'd be a little upset too. That doll is not to be tampered with.
I know there were a good many people in New Orleans that were very complaining. I mean, they're very seriously complaining about it.
Mhm.
It wasn't a sort of tongue in cheek thing. They were really upset about it. And of course, you can't
Yeah,
blame them in a way. I mean, it's bad enough stuff as we've got going on in the world. And then you want to go ahead and do something like that. That's never good.
it's not. I wouldn't
Yeah.
mess with it. Actually, I was messaging with my friend Eric Vanderlaan from We're Party Paranormal out of South Florida, and he said don't worry, they're gonna be there with Annabelle in October up in Illinois, and he said don't worry, we are not going to mess with her. Don't worry, we're not going to get ourselves in trouble. He said they're going to take it easy and be safe. He
Well, if they're
promised
going to
me.
be in Illinois, we may have to send Gerald and Jane and maybe even the girl and her gong up there and check it out.
That's right. That's right. If they
Yeah.
are brave enough, I don't know.
Yeah.
I know they're brave enough, but just be
Bring
careful if
bring
y'all
us a
go.
report back. If you live to bring us a report back. Okay, definitely. But anyway,
Yeah.
you
Don't bring
also
us an
did.
attachment back.
I wanted to mention too. You will be doing the disclosure thing in Florida. Speaking of Florida, in July,
Oh,
right?
oh
I
yeah.
was invited to go speak there, but unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make it this time. But it should be a great uh, get together down there. Absolutely.
Yeah. I was there last year. That was a good event. Disclosure Now down in St. Petersburg, Florida. That's in July. I think Maureen's coming and she's bringing Gus. So I'm excited to see them for sure.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'll be able to make it next year. Hopefully, if nothing happens, I would love. Very interested in speaking to that because it looks like it will be a great crowd. Absolutely. And speaking of that, we had fun together at the Myrtle Beast thing when we finally got to meet face to face there. That was fun.
It
Although
was it was a nice surprise getting to meet you.
it was a surprise for you in more ways than one. You got kind of sick thanks to that. I kind of got under the weather, didn't you?
I did. I'm still kind of healing from that. Yeah, it's been almost 2 weeks now, and I'm still not feeling great from that. I got really sick. A couple of people caught a little bug after they left that. It's just a
It seems
matter
like
of being
the
around
older we
people.
get, the harder it is to shake stuff off like that. Sometimes it seems like it. You have to
It
stay with us
is.
longer.
It is. We were under the weather, as they say. Wink, wink. If you know what I
Absolutely.
mean. Under the weather.
Mhm.
Yeah. It was chemically induced by the sky, probably. I don't know. I'm a conspiracy theorist at heart.
Well, I hope there was nobody hanging around trying to put the whammy on you down there. You
Oh
never know.
no. I don't know.
Seems
I
like
tried to I tried to stay to myself as much as I could.
that's what I said, earlier about, you've been going along and everything's not doing all right, and evil kind of looks at you and says, we're going to mess that up.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I heard that.
and have that target definitely on you. But anyway, hopefully we are stronger and get by all that stuff. Absolutely. But
Oh yeah.
tonight we're going to be talking about psychic warfare, the battleground of the human mind. And I think a lot of the future war will be fought this way in some aspects, with the psychic and psyops type things. And you did a show here recently that got me thinking about this. It was called you called it the weapons of mass
Deception.
deception. That was great. I like that title. uh, and that kind of ties into this that we're going to be talking about tonight. And a lot of this, and I mentioned this to you earlier, and it surprised me that the deeper I got into research on this, the more dark and dangerous it becomes. The more you look at it, it is downright, and especially for you being a remote viewer, which, by
Mhm.
the way, I will say this, that I think that it's a great gift you have for this thing. And of course, you're using it the right way. You're not abusing that gift, and that's always good. No matter what gift you're given, you need to use it the correct way, folks, for the right things and not the bad things.
Right.
But someone like you that has this ability definitely would have to guard yourself and be careful how you approach some things, because not only are these bad subjects that you're dealing with and a lot of bad and negative forces that are in play here, but also there may be, if there is an active cover up going on, Jessica, they're going to also cover this way they're going to cover things psychically as well. Don't you agree?
Mhm. Yeah, it could be. It could be. And yeah, I mean, the government has been using psychic spies, admittedly, since the Cold War era. So what is that, the 1960s or so? They've admitted to use them in the United States, and they still do currently to this day are utilizing remote viewers. It's a big part of a lot of projects that they work on. And I even have a friend who told me that he was a sniper for the army in the military, and he said that they had a remote viewer assigned to just about every unit. He said for some of the missions they went on out in the field and stuff. So yeah, it's the people that I remote view with are none of them do it publicly at all. And as a matter of fact, I don't mention any of their names. Remote viewing is something that I never meant to be public about it at all, because the people who are really into it don't talk about some of the things that they remote view, and a lot of the targets that I've actually remote viewed, I have no idea what they were. I'll never know. I'm given a set of coordinates, and I give the data, I turn the data in, and that's it. So we don't even know. I don't even know what I'm remote viewing a good portion of the time.
Yeah, so that's sort of an exercise in a way
Hmm.
of how you do that. Definitely, But the one thing that got me thinking about this, I've shared this before with people about the approach that I had with the CIA, Alphabet Company, or whatever you want to call them. And they didn't just come to me to recruit me. They just, they were wanting information. And I've never really shared a lot of that information they wanted from me that day, but it did definitely have to do with demonic rituals. Okay, I'll say that about it. And then it's sort of an offside. They just said, "Well, hey, why don't you join us? We like people with your talent." And they sort of opened my eyes that day. Hey, this is they're looking for people, actively looking and searching for people, and utilizing people in these kind of fields with these gifts and all these other things. So that is definitely a big part of what they're doing with their warfare. So warfare is not just physical stuff on the battlefield. It can be stuff like this as well.
Hmm.
It's freaky when you think about it. Um, but here's another thing, and we're going to talk about this tonight too. There is even evidence that they are using this type of thing for actual assassinations and unaliving people
No.
for certain
Uh
reasons.
oh. Oh man. Yeah, that sounds interesting. That sounds really interesting. Yeah, I mean, the normal average human has no idea how limitless we can be, how limitless we are, and how controlled we've become, and how boxed in our minds have become through control methods, and even with like energy weapons and weapons of mass deception. Okay, just like that show you had mentioned that I did, and that show actually kind of revolved around the space flight that those celebrity women took on the Blue Origin flight, and so that's the show I did on that. But we are limitless beings, and we just have to know how to tap into all of our abilities, and that includes our psychic abilities. And I mean, it took years for me to even admit that I was psychic, because it was so looked down upon when I grew up. We just knew of Madame Cleo or Miss Cleo. Call me now.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I didn't want to be seen as that, and people make fun of me. And so and when it came out, and that's, you mentioned that it can be dangerous to be a remote viewer too, and
Well,
it
here's
can be
Jessica.
because we're
If
watched. very closely. I've gotten a proverbial knock at my door over speaking publicly about a target that I had done, and so it is a threat. Can be, could be to
Well,
the
I know
matrix.
you've helped over the years with a lot of cold cases and stuff, and missing persons, which is very good. That is an absolute necessity and things like that. But you walk a fine line when you do that too, though, because these people have family, and you have to be very careful how you approach this stuff in many ways. I can understand, it kind of puts you in a kind of bad position sometimes that you have to, but you are very brave for doing that, though. I mean, to push forward with that, and I like it the way you focus on what needs to be done, and not what the outside interference and all that goes with it, but what really needs to be done. And that's the main thing. We talked about earlier on your show today, about ghost research and all that. And that's the one way I've always approached it is, trying to help people. It's not just about the fun of doing something or the interest in that, although that is a little bit of a sideline. We do like what we do. I mean, to a certain degree, well, we wouldn't do it, you know. But
Right.
um, the main thing is the focus is helping people, and especially when you do these cases, you help maybe resolve some things for people. A lot of things that's good too, and you want to bring closure sometimes when you can to these
Mhm.
cases as well. So that is fantastic. I applaud you for doing that because that is a great thing to do for people. Absolutely, offer help when help needs to be offered is a good thing, and that's why I think we're here for. A lot of times we're just here to help people out with these things, and I think that's why we're giving, like the gift that you've been given, and gifts that other people get for to utilize this to help other people. That's what it's all about. You know.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I choose to use my gifts for good, and so I've acknowledged that I have them, and I have been lucky enough to meet the right people at the right time to help me enhance my gifts and figure out how to use them in the right ways, and to be able to help look into cold cases and missing people, missing children. A lot of that I've done so much of that I don't talk about publicly. And the things that I put out to the public is just, it's almost, I just do all that for fun. Okay. And I get these great targets from some great taskers. And we are really, the goal is to really just try to, not that we're solving mysteries of the world, but just to look into things from a different angle, and to do something that's just unconventional to the everyday research out there. And so that's what I like to do. I like to be different and to really dig into stuff in a way that maybe not a whole lot of people are doing. So it's fun, and it can be pretty rewarding. Of course, whenever I'm doing I don't know when I'm doing a missing persons case, that I have my targets are blind, so I'm just given a set of coordinates, and but I can tell pretty easily, when somebody has been hurt or injured or unalived. Uh, and so it is kind of hard to do those kind of things, and do too many. That's why I don't do a lot of targets. I've I do at least once a week now, it seems like, but I don't get a whole lot of missing persons cases very often anymore, because it's really hard to do that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
but I have done a lot in the past.
You and I did a show on Dennis. What was the last name? Dennis.
Martin.
Yeah, yeah, and
Oh, yeah.
that was very interesting. That we were looking into that from different angles as well, and of course that is still an ongoing mystery to this day. Nobody knows exactly what really happened to that young man, and there are many others like that out there. We've heard
Yes.
about over the years. And it would be good if we could find some solutions for some of these things. But just like you say, I agree with you 100%. If you look at these different angle and you're looking outside the box, sometimes that helps too to understand maybe what's been going on or what happened maybe, and gives people another view of these things.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. And and there's things that I want to say the controllers, maybe. I don't even know if that's the right term, but the people who there's a vested interest in keeping a lot of things hidden from the public too. And so I have definitely pushed the boundaries with that. I've definitely pushed the limits. And so it all goes back to I'm just a civilian right here, just a mom who likes to do remote viewing for fun. And I can't help what targets I get. And if I get a good one, we're going to talk about it. It's for entertainment purposes only.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. If you run up against something like that, do you immediately feel it? It's like, is it throw up a red flag for you or what? I mean, do you?
Well, it depends. Well, it depends because I have parameters to where there are certain things that are off limits. And the people who only let certain people task me with targets. People who have been trained to task me with targets are the ones that give those to me, and they know what to give me, what not to give me. There's certain things that I don't remote view, and I won't. But yeah, like let's say for instance, the missing people out of our national parks. That was those were really important targets, and those were blind targets that Barry gave me, and I knew that it was something that I probably shouldn't be looking at. Okay. I knew it right away because I was seeing something that was so guarded. I thought I was remote viewing the basement of like Fort Knox or the Vatican or the Smithsonian, I think is what I told him. And I was like, it's something it's like the basement of like a underground under the Vatican or the Smithsonian or somewhere, but it's heavily guarded like Fort Knox is what I told him. And I was seeing people being kidnapped and experimented on and disposed of. I mean, it was just wild. And he kept having me go back and do the targets again and do them again and focus here and focus there. And I got really sick after a couple of days of doing that. It really made me sick, physically sick. And I was sick for a good week after that, at least. But we got some answers out of it.
That's definitely a risk that you run, Jessica. Absolutely. There's effect. I have actually had in my career, and I know you have as well, had actually instances where we've run into, I won't say supernatural beings or supernatural situations that will affect us that way. I have been made deathly ill. I mean, I think when I ran into the men in black not long after that, I almost died. I mean, it took it like almost unalived me. And you can run into certain instances with this. I call it bruise your spirit, where it just gives you a good gut punch sometimes. And you know that this is something very bad and very dark, and the way it attacks you that way or kind of pushes against you. And especially somebody remote viewing would definitely be running into this a lot. Absolutely. And that's why I say you're very courageous for doing that, because people do not know what kind of a position you're putting yourself into sometimes when they ask you to do these things.
Well, that's why I only take targets from certain people that know the parameters of where I can go and where I can't. And a good portion of my training was actually psychic protection, energetic protection. And so I have a process that I use. I can't disclose it to the public or anything because it's my personal psychic protection. But I can promise you that, but I've been trained in protecting myself psychically, energetically, and spiritually before going into a session with a remote viewing target.
Absolutely, that makes sense. Yeah, definitely. That you would have another. You've got to first protect yourself, definitely, if you're going to be any kind of value to whatever you're doing. We've talked about that in law enforcement and things like that. If you've got a job to do, it's very all important that you're allowed to do your job safely, securely, but do it effectively. That's the main thing. And if you're not, if you're in jeopardy all the time, you're not being effective. You know what I'm saying? So definitely, I would say, yeah, you definitely have to really shore up the defenses for that. Absolutely, I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
That, and I understand. And a lot of people from the outside of remote viewing don't really understand a lot of what you're doing. And of course, that you know that well.
I actually kind of worry about people sometimes because since I came out doing my remote viewing show, and I started noticing that I didn't know anybody that was talking about remote viewing back then. And I knew that, I think the Farsight Institute might have been doing it. And I think that's all. That's the only person that, the only group that I knew that was publicly doing remote viewing at the time for the public. And I started doing it, and I started meeting people and meeting people that were like, I would go to conferences and there'd be people there that would say they were remote viewers. And I was so excited to go talk to these remote viewers because I didn't know any outside of my group. And I have a whole team of remote viewers. We've all trained together for years, for over a decade together. And so I was excited. And I got to some of these conferences and I was going up and talking to people, and I realized they had never been trained in remote viewing. So it was kind of, I just will be honest about it. I was just blown away because I thought that if you are a remote viewer, the type of remote viewing that I do, you know how to remote view. Okay. So there's actually like a divide in my world. Okay. From people who've been trained in remote viewing, like the military style, like I've been trained in Ingo Swan style as well. But that type of remote viewing, and then people who look into things psychically. And they say the remote view, and that's great, but it's just, to me, there's like a divide there. And I worry, I've trained, like I said, a good portion of my training was training on how to protect myself. And so I do kind of worry about, I think that any good psychic will know to protect themselves. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. It's very much like we were talking about ghost research on your show today. You need to protect yourself going in and coming out. You need to know how to do that. And if you don't, you're just sort of like a sitting duck. I mean, you're asking for it sooner or later. You're going to get some bad trouble. But, another thing we have to stress on the show tonight, though, is the difference between some of these things like remote viewing and some other psychic type abilities that you definitely utilizing here. Some of these people may be able to do things like I touched upon earlier with assassination and removing. They call that actual removal. That's a fancy word for saying they killed somebody. But
I don't have somebody.
Techniques that they use go beyond remote viewing. Okay, folks, it goes beyond that. It goes into manipulation of things. And this is freaky to think about. That actually, you have neurons in the brain. You have chemical in the brain. You have blood going through the brain. You have serum that moves through the brain. The brain is your main number one organ. It drives everything. It works everything. And if you attack that in certain ways, you could really, screw your host up very much. You could screw the one after your target. You could take it out very quickly. You could even do that by causing somewhat of an aneurysm in the brain. Or you could do it by also reversing the chemical reaction of the brain. You can do it by also affecting the neurons. So many different ways you can attack the brain this way. And you could do that by thought, folks. That's the freaky thing. By simple thought, direction, and conscious direction of thought to these things. Using your psychic abilities to do these things. You're talking about absolutely getting away with murder if you were to do something like that, because it would definitely not leave a really viable, what you would call a murder mark on someone. Now in law enforcement, I've walked up to a lot of bodies and I could, I know when someone's been shot or stabbed or cut or the throat cut or whatever. I mean, that's what we call a murder mark. It means you, without doubt, you see what happened here. But when in that kind of instance, Jessica, people attacking the brain and the functions of the brain and all that is, you would not be leaving a murder mark. I think you would have to have a very deep, and I have watched autopsies, folks. Okay. You would have to have a very, very deep autopsy to even pull up evidence on that.
Oh my gosh. What you're talking about is kind of reminding me of where I've heard people talking about feeling like they're being affected by somebody putting black magic on them or something. They can't prove it, but they know it. They got somebody putting some voodoo on them or something. And it kind of sounds like that a little bit. But I can't say that I've never been trained to do that kind of stuff. Okay. I can't say that, but I can say that I do know very well how to do something like a deep mind probe on somebody. And I've done plenty of those. I do them quite often, actually. Anytime that I go into a session and I detect a consciousness of some sort, like a person, I mean, even an animal or a cryptid. Okay, if I detect a consciousness and I am communicating with something, which is usually a lot of times it's when it's a person, I can get into their head and ask them questions, and do that's what we call a deep mind probe, and it's a big part of remote viewing.
Interesting you should touch upon black magic there, because what is black magic but a mind over matter type thing?
Right,
That's basically what it is. You're
with
manipulating
rituals.
reality, and you're
Yeah,
changing things to the way you want it to be, and that's the way black magic works. And of course, if you have a psychic power behind it, especially a demonic power or anything like that, you're definitely gonna get things done the way you maybe want them to do. But look at this, folks. What we're talking about here is murdering people, unaliving people without leaving a mark on them. That's bad. That's bad when you think about it. But
that's
think about the
scary.
government taking something like this and utilizing it
Oh my
and
gosh.
weaponizing it. And we've talked about that so many times in the past, Jessica. They're very good at weaponizing stuff. This is definitely a weapon they would not pass up. Think about it. It's the perfect way to unalive somebody.
Well, you know, in that movie, The Men Who Stare at Goats, they did practice on making goats collapse. You remember that? So, so they were showing everybody in the movie what the power of your mind can do to a goat. Okay,
And here's another
to a
thought,
goat.
though, on the battlefield. Now, that's what I talked about this being the future war. Okay. If you could utilize something like this on the battlefield and scramble the thoughts of your enemy soldiers, okay, so the point where they couldn't even hold a gun in the correct direction or whatever, you're talking a very powerful weapon here, folks. And they would definitely like to have something like that on the battlefield that would make you be the winner.
They do
Because
have stuff like that, Dennis. They have
yeah.
those. They have all these silent energy weapons. We've got them on every street corner, for the most part. Just saying. I mean, you think about things that come naturally to us, like telepathy, right? Well, we have an artificial form of telepathy now. It's called a telephone. Okay, and just think about us. I mean, sometimes your phone will ring, right? And you already know who it is before you even look at it. You're just like, oh, I can tell that's my grandma,
Oh, yeah.
or that's my kid, or that's my mom, or that's somebody, so and so. And you look at the phone and it's them. Like we have a telepathic connection to people, and it's once you're tapped in and tuned in, it gets a little bit more obvious. Okay, but there are things like being able to, and these things that people can tap into, like remote viewers or whoever, if they can tap into, let's say, doing a deep mind probe on somebody. I mean, that's they have technology to do that now. Okay, they can get in people's heads now. They can. I mean, we've talked about it plenty of times on my channel where we talk about the commercials that are being downloaded in our dreams. You wake up wanting a McMuffin, right? It's really scary, but I mean, that's why you keep your cell phone beside you in your bed. I mean, that's tuned into something, and it can, with all these satellites and 5G and manipulation going on, they can get in your head. I mean, there's voice to skull technology out there. There's all sorts of stuff. It's all artificial telepathy and stuff where they can, people talk about hearing voices in their heads. Well, what if they're not crazy? What if there is somebody putting a voice in their head? Totally possible.
There you go. Mind manipulation on a large scale.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that's going on to a certain extent, definitely. And of course, like
Big
you
time.
mentioned, the 5G technology that's all around us, the Wi-Fi that's going on, that could also be utilized
Oh yeah.
as direct energy weapons in a way.
Oh yeah.
So this stuff is real. It's nothing far out science fiction stuff. This is a real thing that's going on, and it's definitely being utilized in certain things. And and I mentioned this on your show today when we were talking about Annabelle. It is. I have seen demonic entities confuse people so much in their minds that they had to leave the room. They had to leave and get out away from that area. I know they can do this, and if they can do that, definitely people with psychic abilities could also do that and manipulate the mind
Yes.
to the point where they could confuse you to the point. I've heard that they say that they can do this even where you couldn't even drive a car. Think about that. If you're going down the road in your automobile and all of a sudden you can't drive anymore, you're in a bad situation here. And that would be a car crash. You would get killed in a car crash, and nobody would ever know that they actually attacked your mind to do that. I mean,
Well,
wasn't
they're
just then.
well, things can be transmitted through your television, your radio, anywhere where there's any kind of frequency waves. Okay, I'm no expert on this. Okay, I'm no expert, but I know through people who do hypnosis and things. I work closely with people who are hypnotists, and the power of suggestion is wild. Okay, it's wild, and people can be made to do things by power of suggestion. And you just got to think we're always on the TV or on our cell phone. And it's called programming for a reason. We're all being programmed, whether you believe it or not. We've all been programmed since we were kids, and some of us are breaking out of it. And if you're watching this and hearing my voice, we're breaking out of it. Okay, but a lot of people aren't, and so. Think about the power of all of us being in front of these screens right now. We're all in front of a screen right now, every single person. And it's, what do they call it? Like the Black Mirror, right? And these are like portals. And there's things being transmitted. Well, I transmute, okay, but there are things being transmitted, like the frequency is being transmitted out right now. And I can only hope that it's for the positive, on our end here. But things can be transmitted out
and are they not portals
that are negative?
Yeah, they
right.
be sort of like portals already, and we are concentrating on that. And what you just said reminded me of what Tesla said. You got to think in terms of frequency, vibration, and energy. That's very true, and I think the vibrations have a lot to do with this. When you're whatever level you're vibrating on, and sound has a lot to do with this as well. And sounds that are higher above the human frequency, able to pick it up, are still sounds there, folks. Just like infrared, we can't see it, but it's still a light. I've actually seen bugs and animals react to infrared that we couldn't. We don't see it because it's above the human, the human ability to see, but it doesn't mean it's not still there, and it still has effects that we can see on that. And sound and vibration can do these things as well, and that's what would make great energy weapons, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like I said, to confuse your mind, change the very chemical output of your brain, even manipulate your thought processes to a certain extent.
Oh yeah, we got to be careful what kind of music we listen to as well. I think all the music has been altered to be a frequency or the megahertz of something that just makes us irritated all the time. A lot of the music, I don't know exactly what numbers are the good ones and the bad ones. I don't know. Okay, but there is something that the sound frequencies have been altered from something that would be beneficial and healing to us to being just jarring. And somebody sent me today, a good friend of mine sent me an article, a declassified document with the CIA actually. And it stated very clearly that humans are made of crystal. Okay. Liquid crystal or something like that. We are just nothing but crystals.
Yeah. We resonate.
Yeah.
And here's another complete example of sound manipulation. You're watching a horror movie, the spooky music starts, the monster's fixing to come or the killer's fixing to come. They're manipulating your emotions with music, folks. And it can be done. If you listen to great classical music, I love classical music too. You listen to that, it lifts your spirits up in many ways. It affects you so emotionally. And yet your enemies know this. They know that this kind of manipulation is on board with the things that they're doing. So sound is definitely part of this frequency thing. Tesla was right,
Oh yeah. Energy, frequency, and vibration. Yeah, it's fabric of our universe. Okay. So yeah, and it's just like that. I can't remember the guy's name. He's a scientist or something. He studied water and crystallized, like when the water would freeze and snowflakes would form and things, and how you speak to something, your intention you put behind it will make it either, beautiful like a snowflake and symmetrical and gorgeous, or it can be all, like like jumbled up and looking all disheveled when you're putting out negative energy towards it. Same with our human bodies. We are liquid crystal apparently. Okay, and we're going to form same as water. Okay, so might as well better be good to ourselves, y'all. Better be good to yourselves. That's an order.
That's the interesting thing about crystals. They resonate, they move, they vibrate. They pick up. They're very sensitive to vibration and all that. And if we are crystals like that, to a certain extent, the body resonates with these things as well. Absolutely. So they know this too, and that can be manipulated on the scale that they want as well. Um, that reminds me of a movie I saw long years ago. As a matter of fact, I was telling my friend Joel about it to put it on his channel. It was called The Power. And what it was, this guy had the power, the absolute power. He could manipulate your thoughts and your minds and therefore manipulate your actions to do what he wanted. You were just a puppet on a string to this guy. Think about somebody with that kind of power, Jessica. That's scary.
It is. It is. I see Blazer. Thank you, Blazer. Blazer says Masaru Emoto was the scientist's name. Thank you so much. I knew somebody would know.
Oh yeah.
In the audience. Yeah, it's we really do need to take care of ourselves and speak kindly to ourselves. We are our biggest cheerleaders, y'all. We can be our biggest enemy or our biggest cheerleader. So let's try to be good to ourselves.
Absolutely, and we know these things are out there, and we know that they're capable of this stuff. Okay, and we should, it's like my old teacher used to say, now that you know this, act accordingly, and so we need to really begin to think about, hey, how can we safeguard ourselves against some of this stuff, and to be careful how we deal with this, the sounds that we get, the music we listen to, the movies and stuff that we watch, and all these other things. We've got to understand how much this stuff can affect us and how it can very badly affect us sometimes. It affects us in good ways too, of course, but it can also be used by bad actors to do these things to us. We need to start thinking about protection, not just physically, but mentally as well against some of these things.
Oh yeah, we all need to learn psychic protection and energetic protection too. And I've heard you say something about going into Walmart recently. You got to protect yourself. Maybe it was one of your posts. It was like a demon pushing a shopping cart through Walmart. Okay, you never know who you're going to run into, right? And so it's important that we do protect ourselves psychically and energetically and physically, okay, too, whenever we go out in public and stuff, because we are being bombarded by energy vampires, and that's not just people, okay, it's also these energy weapons and things that are going on, especially if we're carrying a cell phone around in our back pocket or in our hoodie pocket or whatever, in our purse. We are constantly being bombarded by energy weapons and stuff. So, yeah, constant attack.
And being tracked as well. We are constantly being tracked, and there's a lot of talk about this, Jessica, about the facial recognition stuff that's going on with that, and also they can track you in your automobile wherever you go with your tag numbers and all that. So all of this is gearing up, and we've talked about this before many times, and for absolute complete control over society. That's what it's being set up for, and every day we get closer and closer to this, and not really realizing how much it is advancing on us. It's because it's doing it a little bit at a time. That's the way you do it. Okay, that's the way you get people to assimilate things a little bit at a time, and that's what's happening to us. But
like frogs boiling in the water, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're gonna have to start thinking about different thoughts. We're going to, just like you said, we're going to start thinking about things out of the box and considering things from different perspectives on this. And it's shows like yours that are very valuable in doing and pulling some of this stuff out so that people can see it and understand what may be going on around them. And people like you who have gifts like this are utilizing them, for the social good of the, in that way. We need more of that as well because they're getting away with murder out there, and literally they are getting away with murder when you think about it. And it's that's not good. That's never good. It's very dark, bad stuff here, folks. And we need to start
Yeah.
guarding ourselves against it and watching out for it on
Yes.
many different fronts. But I think a lot of this stuff too, Jessica, and we got to consider some of this. A bunch of this stuff is very subliminal in the way they go about doing it.
It is. And I was watching something about a week ago where this guy was saying, well, we're all tracked. Every human is tracked by satellites. And there's something that pings off the back of our heads. And they can track every single person on the planet with this, whatever these satellites are. I don't know the details of it. I was kind of blown away by it because I was like, you know what? That's interesting. And somebody in my chat that night, when I brought that up on my show, they said, I think it was Erin. She was like, well, in that case, they should be able to locate every single missing person, right? Yeah, you think
They
so?
could if they wanted to.
They could if they wanted to, but maybe the ones tracking us are the ones taking us. I'm just saying. This is for
Well,
entertainment purposes only.
there's probably a reason why they don't
Yeah.
want to find them because they're in cahoots with whoever it is that got a lot of missing for that matter. But I was sitting here thinking about this. You remember the Terminator movies? The whole thing was about Skynet. Skynet was the
Yes.
satellite net that when it was all over the world and absolutely got control of the world. And we've already got a Skynet, folks. It's in the sky above us right now tonight as we talk. It's already in place, and who knows what it's being really utilized for. It's not all just commercial stuff, okay? There's a big chunk of it that is something different altogether, completely. And that's like we talked about this before. I don't know if you've heard of it, but supposedly there are wherever you see a lot of these cell towers, two or three of them are dummies, but they're not just dummies. They're put there for a reason. They're there for some kind of nefarious reason, and they're there in a secret way to do whatever it is they're doing. What are they utilizing? Let me tell you this, it'll blow your mind when you think about it. And we've said this before. All the technology that you and I have at our fingertips right here now tonight, right here in this point of time, is 100 to 200 years behind what the government already has. Okay.
Right.
And if that is true, God only knows what else they're capable of out there and the things they can do with these towers and all this. And if we're dealing with 5G right now, what if they've got 10G? Think about it.
Oh yeah. I mean, ultimately, it all boils down to control, Dennis. Is controlling the masses, and that's ultimately that's all it is. It's a big one, but that's all it is. It's just controlling the information, controlling your travel and the way you move and the way you think and things you dream and you know staying inside the matrix. That's the big thing. They want everybody to stay in their little boxes, in their little cities, eating the bugs and all that kind of stuff. And that's just not what we're here for. We're not built for that.
Yeah.
Oh, at least some of us aren't built for that. I see Barry in the chat. What's up, Barry?
That's what somebody once said, Jessica. I forget who it was. One writer said that eventually those in power will control you to the point where they will put you in a little box and file you away. And that's really what it comes down
They
to,
want to.
basically. That is what they want, seeking complete control. And a lot of
Right.
people believe, especially people that talk about biblical prophecy and other prophetic things, that this is bound to happen and is coming down the line very soon to happen. I was reading today. I don't know if you're very familiar with the prophecies of Mother Shipton, which were written, I
Oh,
think, back in the 1600s. And there's some freaky stuff in there. If you ever get a chance, you read some of it. But it's getting very close. She even talks about the year 2026. Um, that's next year, folks. Okay, and she's talking about that things going on with that, and what she says in that sounds exactly like a mirror image of the society we're living in right now. And this was 1680, I think, or something like that. That's
oh,
pretty good on the mark in my book. And you got to look at some of these other things like Nostradamus and some of the other prophecies that are out there. This is a lot foretold, and we talked about this on your show the other day. I think a lot of people wherever you go saying, "Oh, something's coming, something big is about to happen, something's coming down the line." I know you felt that. I felt it. People have told us that over and over. Wherever you go, no matter what the situation is, everybody feels that for some reason. And I think it's the consciousness, the world consciousness is trying to tell us something.
Oh yeah. Well, I was watching. I listen to Phil Schneider quite a bit. Anytime I come across anything where he's given, talking about Dulce and the alien agenda and stuff, I'm fascinated by it all, and I really take heed for people who have lost their lives over disclosure. Those are the ones we should be listening to. I'm just saying. And I pay close attention to what he says. And today I listened to a little clip where he was talking about by the year, I want to say he said 2036 or 2032. Okay. Can't remember. It was one of those. I wasn't listening that close, obviously, but I was listening pretty close. And he said that the goal he said the military is fully aware of this. He said that they're the aliens are planning a complete takeover of this planet, and they will have it completed by that year, is what he said. And that's their plan. That's their plan. And I thought, man, and he ended up deceased very shortly after he talked about that. Okay,
we
so
talked about that the other day, there are certain instances that said that maybe perhaps fallen angels that we've talked about before, the fallen angels themselves happen to be in a league with certain alien species. Some of them being the reptilians and the greys and all that. This would not surprise me a bit, folks, because you got, there's an old saying, okay? You're going to see a lot of vultures where there's some dead bodies, okay? That's the way it goes. When you see the vultures, you know something is happening. I think when you see bad actors gathering together like that, forming their own little cabal or whatever you want to call it, that's not a good sign. It means they're getting ready for something. Something's about to die or something ready to be killed, and that's not the vultures. They always know. And that to me is not that far out there. To me, that these forces could not be aligning to do some of the things that they're getting ready to do. But here's the bad part, which I always talk about, Jessica. Mankind itself is going in league with these forces and selling its own people out. We used to talk about this. I think it was one time, and I'm gonna go off course here a moment. But you remember Julia Roberts, the actress Julia
I
Roberts?
think
She
she's
comes
from
from
Georgia.
Georgia, you know.
Yeah,
She came home to
pretty.
Georgia one day. Yeah, she came home to Georgia one day, or stopped in while making a movie, and started really getting down on Georgia. Okay, and a lot of us said, "Why is you doing? You come from Georgia. Why would you go back and bite the hand that feeds you? Why would you do that to where you came from? How stupid is that?" And that's the way it goes. And how can you be a part of mankind and be willing to sell it out? That's not
Oh
good.
man, people do anything for a little pocket change these days. We talked about that today with Annabelle. Okay, there's a huge problem with greed. Okay, a lot of greed and materialism and things like that go on, and power and greed, materialism, all that kind of stuff. Um, it ultimately boils down to power and control, and people sometimes people will sell out for not a whole lot. Okay, and so yeah, I've seen it with my own eyes. I've experienced it myself with a lot of people in my lives. My life, not lives. I don't have a bunch of lives, but my life. Um, it's it's really disturbing, actually. It's really disturbing. So yeah, I can only speak for myself, and have integrity myself, and stand in my truth. Okay, and my authenticity and whatever. I am what I am, and y'all see who I am. And if you meet me in person, I'm the same person here right now as I am in person. if that makes sense. And a lot of people are not. A lot of
That's
people
what I
are not.
like about you. You're real. You're a real person. Okay.
Well,
And
thank you.
and when I say that, here's why I cannot stand fake people. Okay. I mean, there's a smile on your face and stab you in the back kind of people, but they're
Yeah.
just fake. They're just, you see that a lot of these celebrities are smiling, and the smile is not real. There's
Well, they're
nothing fake about
clones, Dennis.
it. Those are not real people, folks. Okay.
Artificial
I like
humans.
real people.
They're clone. Shout out to Clonaid. Isn't that what that Kid Boo rapper guy says? He's like, shout out to Clonaid. I mean,
Mhm.
we just live in such a wild and crazy world. What's what anymore? I don't even know. I think there's a lot of non-humans walking among us as well, and people that don't have souls. And we talk about people selling their souls.
Oh, yeah.
Some people just don't even have a soul.
But I said that's the one thing about black magic that it does to you, dabbling around in the arts and all this stuff. It takes your humanity away from you, a little bit by a little
Yeah.
bit. One day you're not human anymore, and if you're not human, you don't have a soul. You're not part of the human race like that anymore. And we've talked about that many times. There are a lot of people out there sadly walking around like that. That are soulless people now, and we've seen that in the eyes of serial killers and murderers. I've seen it a lot in law enforcement. You meet those kind of people, and it's sad, really sad in a way, that they have lost that. Because that's something very precious. That's the most precious thing we have, if you want to look at it that way. It's like what's been said. What should gain the whole world and lose your own soul? Your soul is something you can't get back. Your soul is you. That is you,
Mhm.
basically, 100% you. And if you're fake, I don't know what to think about that because you're not a real thing. Okay, what are you hiding? What is the mask hiding? And I said that in my
Yeah.
book when I wrote my book, The Road Unseen. I talk about these things are wearing a mask, and when you walk up, you go against this deception that you talk about. It's wearing a mask, folks. And it's what's behind the mask that we should be really worried about. That's what we should really be looking at. What's behind that mask? We get caught up on looking at the mask too much. And it's like we talk a lot about these, Jessica, and I've talked about these people where they slip with the glamour and you see what they really are for a while. I shook hands with somebody like that one day. I was shaking hands with this guy. I looked down, I'm shaking hands with a reptilian, okay? And I look up back at him and he's like, yo, you saw that, you know? And he quickly broke off and walked away. I mean, I saw that. I'm standing there saying, I saw that. And you
Oh
can't
man.
deny the evidence of your own eyes sometimes when you see these things.
Yeah.
It's freaky, you
I
know.
know. I've seen people that I know personally. Their eyes changed to all black right in front of me
Mhm.
before, and turned into a. I mean, it was like
That's
possessed.
a bad
It was
time. That's
crazy.
always a bad sign.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've technically had two black-eyed people in front of me before I asked. I had that one that showed up at my door a long time ago when I was young, and in the middle of the night, and then I had somebody close to me that his eyes turned black, and that was my mom saw that actually. My mom saw it too later that day. We both saw that. It was terrifying.
Well, I
And
told a story the other night, and I'll repeat it real quick. Can't
Mercy
hear me.
Berry.
You'll find this interesting. What happens when you let them in? I got a
Never.
story about that. Okay, let's
We
tell us
don't
about.
do that.
And he was married. And he had a little, I think, 4-year-old boy, a little boy, and said that the little boy had not been sleeping well, and he he was sleeping with his mother. His mother went in to sleep with him, trying to get him to sleep and everything. And he had to get up to go to work that morning. And you know how it is, you have to get up real early. He was up like 4:30 in the morning, and he was making his breakfast, and he was going around making sure the computer was turned off and all this stuff. And he's getting ready, and he has his breakfast. It's like 4:45, and he got to be to work by 5 or something like that. He jumps in the car and he backs the car out, and the headlights sweep around the road. There's a little child standing on the sidewalk, and the child's got nothing but a diaper on, like, and it's like 40 degrees out there, and he's holding a sippy cup.
Oh no.
And he
I
said,
wouldn't have
"Man,
seen
well, there it
that.
goes. I'm gonna be late because I got to get this child off the street and call the police, and find out where this child goes and all that." And he goes over there and he picks little child up, and it's this little boy, it's his little son. He's supposed to be in the house sleeping, and he gets the keys out, and he takes the little child in his arm, and he goes, he opens the front door, he goes in, he hollers to his wife, you know, uh, little Johnny got out. What's he doing out of the house, And he walks in there, and he sees his wife still asleep on the bed with his son. And he looks at this child that he's holding, and he said, I knew it was not my son. His eyes were solid black. He said, next thing he remembered, he woke up in bed with his clothes, all of his clothes on. And it's like later, it's 5 o'clock now, 5 o'clock in the morning. He said, I get up, and he said, he doesn't know what's happened, but he goes back in there and he looks, and his son's still sleeping in the bed with his, with his wife. So he leaves, and he gets to work. And he tells the boss what happened. The boss said, well, that was a wild dream you had, And he said, oh, was it a dream? Was it a dream? He got to thinking about that. And 2 weeks later, he found that sippy cup behind his computer.
Well, that's weird. That sounds like an ET experience or something to me, like a screen memory, or maybe just something demonic. I don't know. No, that's terrible. Skinwalker action for you.
Yeah.
It's almost like it could be a mimic, it could be a skinwalker, it could be an ET, it could be a black-eyed child, or all of it combined. Just a combo.
I think they're all related. In many different freakier ways than we really understand. And in my career, I've run into a lot of the demonic over time, and this stuff is real. I tell people that, of course, they accuse me, Dennis, all you ever talk about is demons, but they are so far-ranging and connected with these things that you can't ignore it. You have to look at it for what it really is. And a lot of this stuff is connected that way. It's strange and freaky stuff, but it is. And there's got to be an answer that covers all of this, And I think day by day we get a little bit closer to that answer.
But I think so too.
We ask, the closer we get,
Yes, for sure. I've seen Barry's in the chat. He's asked a couple of times, would I rather be in a room with like Annabelle or the crone of the Catskills? Neither, Barry. I don't want either. None of them. Probably the crone of the Catskills would be. I'd be a little more comfortable with that one. Probably. Definitely not Annabelle. Definitely not that one. I'm not into haunted objects.
It would be good to avoid any entanglements like that at all. But
well, I've already been entangled with the crone of the Catskills because he gave me that as a remote viewing target.
Yeah.
And so I have already mixed my psychic energy with that one over there. So she already expects me. So I'd be all right with that one. I survived that one. If you want to, I guess. I mean, I'm sure I got on its radar. But it's on my radar too. See, we got to start flipping things around. Like people being like all scared, like, oh, you don't want to get on the radar. Well, no, it's on my radar. Okay. I know.
Well, let me ask you this question. I got you here. What is I'm going to put you on the spot. Okay. What is the freakiest, scariest thing that you think has ever really truly happened to you in whatever the situation, whether it was remote viewing or whatever it was? What is the freakiest thing, the scariest
thing? Oh, man.
People ask me this all the time, so I ask you.
Yeah, well, things aren't really too freaky for me because I've been immersed in this my entire life. So I can't say anything has been super freaky. I'm more freaked out by humans stuff. Like what humans, I've had more freaky stuff that humans have done towards me than anything. Okay. But yeah, probably seeing, like I mentioned, like watching people's eyes turn black right in front of me. That was some of the freakiest stuff I'd ever seen. Actually watching as a dark entity, an evil entity. I'm talking about demonic. And I mean demonic. Watching a demonic entity hop from body to body around people that I know. And it's people who are supposed to love me and be friends and, care for me. They all, friends and family, turned. And it was the exact same entity in all of them, and it was jumping from person to person, and it was like at a particular time, and it's kind of like been throughout my life, actually, to be honest. And so that's why I'm an advocate. I kind of will talk about how we have to be careful about who we surround ourselves with, like our friends, even online. We have to be careful, okay? Because we don't, I don't always know who I'm really talking to online. I don't know about y'all, but everybody's pretty anonymous online, right? And you really don't know who you're talking to and stuff. So we just got to be really careful. That's why I put up a lot of protection around me all the time. But not too much, I still put myself out there, but we have to be careful, Dennis, when it comes to stuff like that, because people that mean the best sometimes might just have a bad day and they're at a low vibration, and that entity is going to attach to them to get to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so be careful, especially. Yeah. Just be careful, y'all.
Yeah, you're sitting up when you're kind of low vibrational day, whether that's that's not feeling well or bad intentions or whatever the situation. You're definitely going to have that happen, and I have actually experienced that too. I've seen entities jump from people to people like that. It's a freaky thing. You definitely don't want them jumping on you. You want to get out of the way, definitely when that happens. But yeah. It's like the old ghost hunter once told me, the dead don't bother me none. It's the living that give me problems. And that's very true.
Yeah, right.
Ways.
Same.
But we have to be careful with who we associate with and situations we put ourselves in. And, I worry about people like that, people like you and people out there that are out there doing that. I know you have protection, but still, you are still putting yourself in harm's way in some ways. So you have to be very extra careful, and we definitely don't want anything happening to you. And we know that, you're courageous to do that, though. We have to tip my hat to you and say that is a brave thing that you're doing. But you know the risk and you know the territory, definitely, of the things that you have to engage in.
Well,
Absolutely.
thank you. Yes, I know the risk, but you know what? I'm not scared. I'm just not. When I tell everybody don't live in fear at the end of all my shows, I mean it, because I don't live in fear. I just don't. There was a time where I did, and I just don't.
That's my new thing.
I don't want y'all to either. That's
be smart. Don't be scared. Be smart. Okay, that's what you gotta be. Try to stay one step ahead. All right, always
or 10. Yeah, always 10 to 20 steps ahead, or maybe 30. Yeah, it's easy when you're tuned in though, and you're psychically switched on. I encourage everybody to work on being psychically switched on. Don't let anybody scare you into not being, okay? And telling you you're a witch or whatever. All the things that I've experienced. There are. I look at people that say things like that to me as like Agent Smiths. Okay, we're living in a very controlled like matrix, in my opinion, and I've had a lot of people during my lifetime discouraging me from doing the things that I wanted to do, and things that went against my gut, and for a long time I listened to other people, and I was stuck. But see, that's like what this matrix is designed for. It's designed for us to be stuck and to never explore our limitless capabilities as being as far as our enhanced human capabilities, like remote viewing and being psychic and using our telepathy and going out and looking for Bigfoot and things like that. It's all like kind of we're made fun of for doing stuff like that. It's like, oh, these people are crazy. They're nuts. They've lost their mind. They need to be in a loony asylum, all that kind of stuff. Well, that's to keep us in order so we don't explore. And because listen, when you got an army of like psychic soldiers out here, psychic civilians, there is no spoon. Thank you, Cryptoville. That's right. There is no spoon. I love that. If y'all haven't watched The Matrix, go back and watch it. Because everything is used to control us, to stop us, to keep us in our little prison, our prison. Yeah. Just kick your way out of it. Okay. I'm your cheerleader. General Jessica, I'm giving you all orders. Break out of the matrix right now.
There you go.
Don't live in fear. There is no spoon.
carry
Yeah.
them out. Okay.
Yeah. But go with your gut. And Mari said, go with your gut. And you know what? That's why we also need to be sure that we have a healthy gut. Okay. If y'all know what I mean, have a healthy gut, because that is where our instinct lies right there. And
Well,
we want to be able to tune into that.
you have to listen to yourself sometimes too. You know, you have to, go with your gut instinct on things like that. Definitely. I think we all, talked about this with the personal space thing. We talked about that one time. I think we all have that built-in spiritual barometer type thing in us, but we need to start paying more attention to it. And going with a gut instinct was the women call it intuition. We need to go with that and understand that, listen to it sometimes and pay more attention to it, what's really going on. We'll be better off for it, definitely. Because here's the thing about it, people on the outside, they don't really know you and they don't know what you're going through or what your situation is like they know their own. Okay, so they think they can give you advice. I've gotten to the point, Jessica, where I don't even want to give advice anymore. Nobody wants it anyway. Uh, but nobody listens to it. If you give advice, they never listen to it. So I let them go the way they're going, unless they're going towards a cliff blindfolded. I might try to warn them, definitely. But people disregard that anymore anyway. So it's better you know, to understand they don't know what's going on in your life a lot. They don't know what's going on with you. So sometimes you are your own best judge of things on that in that category. And that's what we need to understand, definitely.
We're always our own best judge. Always. Yeah. The answers are within you. Okay. They're all within you. You just got to quieten your mind and do some meditation and pray. Okay. And the answers will come to you.
Mhm.
Promise. Yeah.
Oh yeah. As Davy Crockett once said, first find out if you're right, then go ahead. And that's what you first find out if you're right before you do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't always have to. I grew up learning, like, you don't always have to ask permission, just do it and then apologize later. Like if you got an inkling to do something, just do it. Okay. And then apologize later if you get in trouble or whatever. I don't know. Maybe
Well,
that's not great advice. That's what I
sometimes,
do.
unfortunately, we have to learn the hard way.
Oh,
That's
my whole life has been learning the hard way. Okay. I chose the hard route on purpose. It builds character. Okay. I've had a lot of character development in my life, Dennis.
Oh yeah,
A
you got
lot
a
of
lot
character development.
of money.
Oh yeah.
Uh, that's why I told somebody the other day. I know I'm supposed to be here. I survived too much. Okay,
Yeah.
I had
Right?
too much going on. I should have been here for some reason.
I know. I'm the same.
Well, it's been a great show tonight. I really appreciate you being here, and it's good to pick your brain once in a while. And it feels kind of weird for me to be on the other end of this here because I'm usually you're the one. It's your show. Usually, I'm doing some. But it's kind of freaky tonight. But I really appreciate you being here. And you got anything you want to say to everybody before we close out? You want to any last words you want to say here? Or?
Yeah, Dennis, we always have fun. Thank you so much for having me over here tonight. And I'm so glad I got to spend 2 different show times with you today. And that was a lot of fun. Uh, I really enjoyed this tonight. And I think we put out some great information. And it's always good. You asked some really good questions as well. And I love learning new things. And I think tonight some people probably learned some new things about me. Which is cool because I'm usually asking other people questions like this and stuff. So yeah, I just want everybody to please get out there and explore and really tune into your psychic abilities and don't back down from that. And that is I'm going to say that's where the future is headed. Okay, I mean, we even hear about it like with the psionics, and the government and the military is admitted to like calling in UFOs with their minds. Stuff. I mean, I went camping with a friend of mine up in Cherokee, about 13 years ago, who did that, and the skyships over Cashers showed up the whole weekend. He did it psychically and stuff. So that's nothing new. None of this stuff is new. that they're going to be exposing, that our governments, our militaries are using. None of it's new. It's been used for a long time. It's just been kind of hidden from us. Okay, so y'all prepare, and don't be surprised at all the things that happen in our future and stuff. And with the remote viewing, I think it's just like kind of laying the groundwork a little bit for what's going to be talked about more in our future and the way things will be in the future. We are going to be telepathically based. I hope that people will start opening up to this more and getting back to our roots. Okay. Although we will still probably have our cell phones for quite some time. It is convenient. Okay. We do have convenience too, but just know that we are capable of anything. You guys are capable of anything. And we are limitless beings. And thank you for having me tonight, Dennis. I appreciate it.
Oh God, it's been a delight, absolute delight. And you're very right. All of us have gifts. Okay, we're all given some type of gift, and the best thing we can do is utilize those that will help us become more fuller people. And doing the things that we enjoy, doing the ability to help people out in situations or whatever our gift is. We need to utilize it, exercise it, and make it better. It makes us better people for it. If we utilize our gifts, it makes us that 100% more what we need to be, in that respect. And I think definitely you're a perfect example of that. And what we need to do with the gifts that we have been given. We've been given those gifts for a reason, folks. Okay, don't abuse them, don't neglect them. Use them. That's what they were given to you for. And you're the one that have to answer to that one day the way you did it, okay, and the way you used them or didn't use them. That depends. So understand that's what makes you you, and it makes you a unique person. We all have those abilities, those talents, whatever they may be. It can be just talking to someone. It can be helping someone heal from something. It can be many different talents that we have, and the field is wide open, and you need to get in touch with that, and you need to feel it. And you know what? When you do that, it will strengthen you psychically as well. It will give you the strength that you need to stand against the darker aspects of things that are out there. Absolutely. I believe in that without a doubt. The more you learn, the more you experience, the stronger you become that way. Okay, that's just the way that goes. Okay, I didn't make that up. That's a part of the laws of the universe. Okay, that's the way it works. But we appreciate you all being here tonight for this fantastic show, and we'll definitely have this woman back again soon. And go check her show out. She is one of the busiest women on the web here, and and uh, and I know it was great to have you here tonight, definitely. And you got a lot of different fires in the iron, as they used to say. But it's good to have you here, and we'll definitely get you back again, hopefully in the future. And when you get more time, I know you're pulled in 1,000 different ways. Sometimes you've been a single mom and all this other thing that you put up. I admire you greatly for that. You
Well,
definitely have
thank
my
you.
admiration on that.
Thank
And you
you.
do a great job with everything you do, and you're very thorough, and you're very dedicated. I can definitely say that about Jessica Jones.
Just
Absolutely.
like you, Dennis.
Yeah.
Just like you.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
it's great to have you with us, and we appreciate you all being here tonight. And we thank you so very much. And take care of yourselves out there, and we will see you Friday. Check out Jessica's channel. She has a she has a store, War Woman Goods. She has some nice looking stuff on there. I go on there looking around every now and then, and she has some great stuff. Go check it out. That's War Woman Goods, and check out her channels. And she has well, you have about 4 different shows now. 3 different. You have four
I have
different shows,
4.
right?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys can find me at the Cryptid Huntress on YouTube, and I upload my videos to Rumble, but they're kind of behind. They're not live there. But you guys can find me on YouTube, the Cryptid Huntress, over there. And yeah, I do 4 live shows a week. I have a show every Monday and Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern,
Yeah.
Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. You can always find me over there live.
All right.
Thanks,
All right.
Dennis.
Well, that's tomorrow night. You got the show coming on. Yeah,
Oh yeah, tomorrow
yeah.
and Saturday, and I had one today. I
Saturday too.
love it. It's so fun.
Well, she has a Patreon. Join her Patreon, and she has a membership on YouTube. So do all that. Check out our Patreon and our membership too. Okay, we appreciate y'all. Jessica is part of my network. Okay, definitely she's part of my network, and I always give a shout out to her on the shows. And we appreciate her very much for being there for us. Absolutely, and we appreciate you all tonight. Thank you so very much for being here. Thank you for your support. And until we get back together again, take care of yourselves. As Jessica says, don't live in fear. Definitely not. Be smart. Don't be scared. Okay. That's the way to go. And take care of yourselves and be careful out there. Keep your head on the swivel and your eyes on your six until we get back together again. Godspeed, my friends, and bon chance to you, bon ami. Until next time. Ciao.
Bye now.
Bye bye.
The hunt has begun. Hunting the shadows.